Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Enjoying Retirement. Today, we're at the wonderful Turquoise Museum in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is part 2 of a series I've started that's called Before It's Gone, and that's because this museum will close shop in sometime in 2026, though they haven't announced yet. They're going to come back in a bigger and better form, but they haven't released any details. We have to wait for the summer for that, but don't expect to see this museum as it is again. So get there when you can. You have to buy your tickets for a slot time and start it on time. Begin with a 15-minute presentation on the history, and then you will head over to the Global Gallery. This is where you're going to see the family history of the family that's put this together and has been in this business for a very, very long time. And then the initial entry hall. This location is beautiful. You're going to see some unique things. Here, what they call the George Washington stone. Kind of looks like his profile on a quarter there, tilted up a little bit. And then just to whet your appetite for some truly beautiful jewelry. And yes, even for your horses. Now, there are several galleries, and this is one of my 3 favorites, the Gallery of Mines. The other are the Imitations and the Southwest, and we'll get to them. And oh, by the way, all these galleries are going to be bookmarked, so if you want to look at the information, you can just skip to the gallery of your choice. But I love this. And don't forget to look up. There's a lot of information when you look up. It's above eye level, so you have to consciously think to do it. Otherwise, it's easy to miss. But if you want a history primer of what turquoise looks like in the various mines, here it is. And here is one of my favorites, Bisbee Blue. I lived down there for nearly 3 decades, and I loved it. Even collected some when we could. Other mines in the area, you're going to be seeing Morenci, Kingman, Royston, Blue Gem, and Sleeping Beauty. So if you want a good way to compare and contrast turquoise from the various mines, in this case specifically mostly in the U.S., this is the absolute best place to do it. It is amazing what they have. Now here's Royston. That's one of my 3 favorite mines, and this is mainly because it is one of the few mines that is still open to the public. Well, Royston's a mining district, but the Otteson brothers let you go in, and I've recently seen another mining family let you go in too. So I'm really happy to still be able to go out there and collect our own turquoise. And there's Sleeping Beauty from Arizona. That's one of my 3 favorites. And that's because back in the 80s when I first got into this, I lived in Arizona and I could get Sleeping Beauty relatively cheaply and in a great deal of quantity. And I still have most of it. But boy, what a wonderful collection of turquoise, great displays, and really a good chance to compare and contrast the various turquoise mines in the U.S. Other places here, we're going to see the rest of the world, but for now, we seem to be focusing on the U.S. here. All right, let's move on to another gallery, and this is going to be mining. This is a small gallery, but it's fairly interesting. It's got a lot of the old tools from the ancient Indians to the old miners to some of the modern things. And it also has a little bit of a showcase of lapidary as well. There's some of the ancient hand axes and axes that were used by Native Americans to mine turquoise for hundreds, if not thousands of years. A little bit of a quick concept of lapidary. How do you turn it from the raw stone into beautiful cabochons, which can then be made into amazing jewelry. That is a big piece of turquoise right there. All right, and then they also have a little mine shaft. This is primarily of interest to kids, but it's still fun to just walk through. Okay, now we are going to move on to the next gallery, and this is the science of turquoise. I really do enjoy this one because in here you can see what the chemistry of turquoise is, and then over in the case on the right, they're going to have some special cuts to show you. But you got to pay attention for it. Find out why some turquoise is blue, some is green, some is light, some is dark. And then what are the various qualities that you want to look for? First is matrix, and that is the host rock in between the turquoise. Second is clarity. Sometimes you don't want that host rock, or the host rock isn't very interesting, and you just want to have pure turquoise. And then color. You'll also learn about hardness, which is a key component of turquoise, and we'll get a little bit more into that when we get into the Imitations Gallery. And there's color, anything from light blue to dark blue and greens. And of course, the source of it. There's a hardness. You really need good hardness in order to make turquoise jewelry. Otherwise, the stone just won't polish and it won't last in jewelry. And then you get to go over and see some basically what I call raw turquoise. That's turquoise that is still in the host rock as it came out of the mine. And if you're lucky enough to head over to Royston and mine with the Ottisons or others, you can collect some of this yourself. And if you're into lapidary, boy, it's a wonderful experience collecting your own turquoise, cutting it, and then silversmithing it. This I had to ask the owner about. Yes, that is natural Sleeping Beauty turquoise. I didn't even know Sleeping Beauty came that dark. It was beautiful. And then some of the ways that turquoise comes, dendrites, fossilized, and other things. And then over on the right, there's a small case of some of the beautiful cuts that the owner did that are very unique. There's a cool Buddha. Or perhaps something more like Yoda. But anyway, Imitations Gallery. This is my second favorite gallery here, in addition to Mines and then Southwest, which we'll see at the end. But here, especially if you are a consumer of turquoise, you really need to spend some time here. Most turquoise comes out of the ground very soft. In fact, it's called chalk. And then through various treatments, it can be stabilized to make it hard enough to work into jewelry, as much of this is. It can be enhanced, where they take medium grade turquoise and try to give it a imitation darker color to make it look more high grade. And then there's just some pure fake turquoise. But here you can learn all about that. And frankly, it is hard to tell the difference sometimes. But a general rule is, if it looks too good to be true and the price is too cheap, then it isn't true. Epoxy, glass, other ways of making turquoise color. Some of the original homegrown methods of, how do you stabilize or how do you enhance turquoise? And yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying an imitation, enhanced or stabilized. Some would argue that stabilized turquoise is favorable for jewelry because it has less chances of breakage. But don't pay the price of gem quality turquoise to get stabilized turquoise in. And I think that's the key here. And when you're shopping, the proprietor should give you a signed statement saying what is the origin of that turquoise and whether it's natural, stabilized, enhanced, or fake. So it's just a great gallery to go to. If you're in the market for turquoise and you want to know a little bit more about what to look for and how not to get ripped off. Because there is a lot of imitation, enhanced and stabilized turquoise out there that isn't marked, and sellers are going to sell it at a premium, hoping you never ask or they don't have to tell you. Great gallery. And again, there's nothing wrong with stabilized or enhanced as long as you know that that's what you're paying for. All right, there is 2 stories there. So upstairs is the International Gallery, and this is where we can start seeing some of the turquoise from around the world. And yes, some of it is as good as American Southwest turquoise. Very, very well done. They call this place the Castle for good reason. It's just beautiful. Another large nugget of natural turquoise. A little bit of turquoise in Europe. The things on the right actually aren't European, but the rocks in the middle, I believe, come from England. And no, they don't quite compare with others. Now, China, if you look at China, China's a very large country. They have a large desert region, much like our Southwest, and they produce turquoise that, frankly, is as good as anything I've seen in Bisbee or from Arizona and Nevada. But again, you got to be very careful that you don't get stuck with an imitation. A few of the other countries and where turquoise is from. And again, if you're a student of turquoise and you want to see in a single location turquoise from around the world, compare and contrast, maybe help you be a little bit better at identification or just for your own understanding, this museum is incredible. It is one of a kind. Egyptian turquoise. And of course, Mexico. Some beautiful turquoise from Mexico. And you'll see some of the face plates up on the wall, just up there. Some of the mosaics that are put together with turquoise. Can't say I'm a fan of it, but hey. All right, here is my favorite gallery, the Southwest Gallery. As I said, I lived in Arizona for about 30 years, so I am really partial to this one. You can see a lot of fully made jewelry. If you want to see it in the raw, go back to the Gallery of Mines. But here you can see it made up. Beautiful work. Some Zuni and Hopi work, Navajo work. Very old traditional work in some of these cases. Some of the more modern work will be coming up. And boy, high quality turquoise set in gold. I think that's about the most beautiful thing there is. Royston, Nevada turquoise there in the middle with some of the greens that it's famous for. Talk about the history of turquoise, how it was used as trade material by the Indians back, the pre-Columbian era. Mystical qualities, it's one of the very few blue stones that you can find in the Americas. So naturally it was ascribed some mystical qualities. And then there will be a display case on how turquoise and silver is worked and made into the beautiful jewelry you see around you. All right, we are just about wrapped up with the tour. I know that was quick, might be too long for some folks, but hey, I barely scratched the surface. I want to thank the Turquoise Museum for letting me film this. We had a great time, and if you're in the Albuquerque area, please stop by. It is a wonderful experience, and unfortunately, these are the last months of our ability to see it. But I'm glad I've been able to record it for those who can't see it in person. All right, thanks for watching. Take care. And as always, I am enjoying retirement.